We said this again and again. We would have loved to see that an Indian would win the Nobel Prize for Peace. This year, India was informed by Time magazine, no less, that this could be a possibility. That two Indians, Mohammad Zubair and Prateek Sinha, the self-styled fact-checker Siddharth, were not just possibly in the nomination list, but that they were favourites to win the prestigious prize.
Now, Time Online's, in fact, reporter Sania Manzoor has said in the piece that they're favourites because they were nominated for, and this is entirely Time magazine's claim in that particular piece that's been published, battling information on India, where according to Time, the Hindu nationalist BJP party has been accused of frequently stoking discrimination against Muslims. Now, if they haven't won today, and they haven't, it is because, and we hate to in fact break this to you, they were never, Padmaja, favourites and possibly were not even nominees.
Whether they were nominees or not, well, the nominee list doesn't come out for 50 years. But this whole favourite thing, where did it come from? How did somebody decide that they were favourites? India's hopes were inflated by what was a con job of monumental proportions. And we have to say it in the plainest words possible. It was a con job. We will tell you how this entire fake job was carried out, it was constructed, and then it was amplified. So let's begin at the beginning. How did people get taken in? On the 4th of October, Time Online carried a piece titled, "Here are the favourites to win the Nobel Peace Prize 2022. Fabulous. Among the 12 individuals and institutions listed as favourites, 2 names became the toast of India. They caught India's attention. Those names were Mohammad Zubair and Prateek Sinha. There was a flurry of congratulatory messages. Everyone hailed it as a win of right over wrong, and more importantly, as a fitting answer to India's fascist government. But here's the thing. The fact-checkers didn't appear to fact-check any of this adulation and the content of the Time article itself. Was there any factual basis for Time to claim that Zubair and Sinha were among favourites to win the Nobel Peace Prize?
Absolutely, Padmaja, and over the next half an hour or so, we'll in fact take our viewers to all the details that we managed to uncover and unravel in our correspondences with the Nobel Committee, as well as some of the people cited as sources in the article that's been published by Time as well.
The answer to that question about whether there's any ground is an emphatic no. We decided to investigate ourselves. We wrote to the Norwegian Nobel Institute, which gives out the Nobel Peace Prize. It categorically denied that there was any shortlist or list at all that it had put out. And for that, I want to take you straight across to the email that we got from the Nobel Committee. The email that we sent to them asked very clearly, was there any shortlist that you have put out, and is there anyone who's a favourite in there? Here is the answer that they gave. This is the email that we got from them as an answer. It says, the Norwegian Nobel Committee does not itself announce the names of the nominees. It further goes on to say that these advanced surmises are either the product of sheer speculation or information released by the person or persons behind the nomination. So, to tell you the basic, the Nobel Committee itself has said very clearly, Siddharth, that these are only speculation and surmises. We have put out no shortlist. So leave alone a favourite, there has been no shortlist at all. Now let's go on to the second part. The Nobel Committee has already told us we haven't put out any shortlist. What were the other sources that this author of the piece actually quoted? Let's take a look at what all she has referenced in her piece.
Absolutely. So the first source that she's actually referenced is a Reuters survey of Norwegian lawmakers that was actually carried out by Reuters in the month of February this year. That article was published by Reuters, and in that specific article that has also been cited by Time, there's absolutely no mention of Zubair or Sinha as people nominated by these lawmakers. So that's point number one. The second source that has also been cited by the author concerned from Time are the odds put out by bookmakers, and in fact she references several names as some of these prospective nominees or people who believed are likely to be recipients of the Nobel Peace Prize. Some of those names are in fact the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, as well as the people of Ukraine themselves. Another particular entity that was named among the odds of the bookmakers was Kyiv Independent as well. And the third source, and this is a very important bit, is in fact, Padmaja, the PRIO directors shortlist, which is also been referenced by Time in its article, and that's where things actually begin to get interesting.
So here's what we've told you so far. The first reference she makes, which is to the Reuters survey, doesn't mention Mr. Zubair or Mr. Sinha. Second, bookmakers don't mention the duo either. The third, which is the PRIO director's personal shortlist. Let's examine that. Here is the personal shortlist. So Henrik Urdal's 2022 Nobel Peace Prize shortlist. Point number one, he's a private citizen. Just like you and I, he can have a shortlist. You could have a shortlist. You could put yourself on the, you could put any of us on the shortlist. Anyhow, you're a private citizen, you've made a shortlist. But in that shortlist, do you have Mohammad Zubair, Prateek Sinha? Strangely, no. Even here in the shortlist, they are not mentioned. Who is mentioned? You have Svetlana and Alexei Navalny, pardon my pronunciation. You have International Court of Justice. You have Harsh Mandar Karwane Mohabbat, Ilham Tohti, Agnes Chow, Nathan Law, HRDAC and Canvas. Where's Mohammad Zubair? They're not here. Strange. But that's what we were told, that they are here in the shortlist, right? Here's the mystery. Go back to the previous graphic. Go back to that. We'll just show you where they actually appear. So you see these 5 names. Name number 3, Harsh Mandar. What happens then, that in this shortlist of a private individual, they have devoted a paragraph each for each of these 5 names. In the paragraph written for Harsh Mandar, the last 3 lines, and that's where we move on. These are the last 3 lines mentioned in passing for the paragraph written for Harsh Mandar, where they say, other worthy candidates for a prize focused on combating religious extremism and intolerance in India are Mohammad Zubair and Prateek Sinha. So, if we are talking about the favorites, they would possibly figure at the top of the list? No. They were there in a para of an individual who is in an organization in no way connected to the Nobel and in no way influencing it. Nobody even asked him that, do you think somebody should be given in the Nobel shortlist? He's just a person who's put it on his website. And that really brings us to the big question, Siddharth.
So on what basis, Padmaja, did Time actually elevate Mohammad Zubair as well as Prateek Sinha to the status of the list of favorites to win the Nobel Peace Prize? That's the basic question that ought to be asked. How could anyone rank among favorites when the nominations are shortlisted and are not made public by the Nobel Committee? There's a cap of 50 years. If Zubair and Sinha were only listed as other worthy candidates, and this is a reference to the PRIO list, in the PRIO directors list, why did Time elevate them to the status of favorites? That's a question that ought to be asked. Remember, their names do not feature in the Reuters survey, nor the odds put out by bookmakers. And finally, if there is truth to Zubair and Sinha being favorites, why would the Nobel Institute refer to it as surmises and sheer speculation, going above and beyond the sort of templated responses that are normally put out by the committee, claiming that you do not reveal who the candidates actually are?
And why did they themselves not fact check it? That is the most stunning part. Now imagine the facts are being called surmises and speculation by the Nobel Institute, no less. Surmises and speculation. What is the whole concept of favorites? Surmises and speculation. Anurag Naidu, Mithun Vijay Kumar, Majid Hydari, Kevin Matthew. Kevin Matthew, surmises and speculation. I think you uncorked the bubbly too soon. Kevin Matthew.
Padmaja, this is quite interesting, and the responses that you've spoken now are also quite interesting. And yes, and on that note, why the question should be asked is why even such a reputed news organization like Time, such an article came out in Time. So when you've refuted all the facts there, so that is a big question here. But then I think today that shouldn't be. So we still don't know who is on the list and who is in the favorites. That's just still
What are you
of the actual
saying?
committee.
You're just going on stating the obvious. It's surmises and speculation. If it is surmises and speculation, shouldn't the fact checkers have fact checked these surmises and speculation?
So you okay? The probably alt news didn't publish the news. That's all right, because I don't know.
I think, Mr. Kevin Matthew, I'll give you a while. You'll take some time to gather your thoughts. I think you've received a bit of a shock with this. What do you make of this, Mr. Vijay Kumar? Surmises and speculation. If we can see through the surmises and speculation The Nobel Committee can see through it. Any thinking individual can see through it. Fact checkers should definitely see through it, no?
But unfortunately, Time magazine couldn't see through it. And this article actually comes in a magazine that says Hindu lives matter is a dangerous slogan. So when they publish an article like this, their intention is pretty much clear. Now, if according to going by the policies of Time magazine, if inciting enmity between various religious groups is the criteria for Nobel Prize, I think Owaisi Saab's name should also have been in the list, right? But it is not there. So I was a bit disappointed when I didn't see his name. So this person, Zubair, why would they recommend his name? Did they actually consider that he is actually a crusader for the peace activities in India because of humiliating a woman with his video editing skills, or for igniting the Islamist fire that swallowed many Hindus, including Kanhaiya Lal and Umesh Gowri and 6 others? So it's very well understood that there's a global campaign that has started against India, and in all likelihood,
just a second, are you saying that this was deliberately done by Time?
I would like to think, I refer to something, right? They say that, saying that Hindu lives matter is a dangerous slogan. So
really?
Their intentions, their policies...
Anurag Naidu, is that what you think also, that this was deliberately done? That it's not like it was an oversight, it was deliberately done?
Padmaja, I have a personal, very strong opinion about this, and I believe, if anybody who's trying to say that Times as a magazine is sacrosanct from any PR engagement, then I personally do not think so. I think they are equally exposed to PR engagement, just like any other magazine or any other media outfit for that matter. Maybe on a lighter note, we are all mistaken. They're talking more about Nobel Prize rather than a Nobel Prize, because that's what the content suggests, because we know these two gentlemen being from India and we know what content they bring to the table, and I don't want to be very personal about this to them, but what I know for the fact is there are far more important individuals who can be discussed in the public domain as favorites before coming to these two gentlemen. But all due respect, I mean, if any Indian wins a Nobel Prize, or we talk about a speculation of being nominated or front runners, I'll be very happy, and I would love to see India
exactly. This is not about their eligibility.
Absolutely, it's got nothing to do with whether or not they're deserving candidates. Like I said earlier as well, that's a separate debate to be had at another time about the credibility and the credibility that they bring to the table as to whether or not they're deserving of the Nobel Peace Prize. But I, in fact, take this across to Mr. Majan.
These two people are not involved in this. See, these two people are not involved in this. Let us not just drag the...
How do you know that? How do you know that?
But here's the question, sir. If they were not involved, and if I have to take that at face value and claim that they were completely not involved, why would they, as professional fact checkers, so dedicated to their profession, why would they actually not fact check Time? Why would they in fact end up giving bites to the media saying that this kind of a recognition is important to us? Why would they retweet congratulatory messages being sent to them from their sympathizers, their colleagues and their friends? So therefore, if they're acknowledging this particular distinction that's been given to them, they're presumably taking the nomination or the alleged nomination at face value as well. But they're professional skeptics. Why were they not true to their job? That's a question that even you should ask them.
No, that's absurd, because you said it is all speculation. So how do you refute speculation? Time decided to...
Sir, but you definitely do not retweet speculation and surmise and accept congratulations for it. If it is speculation, if I called you up tomorrow, Kevin Matthew, or I wrote, on my website that Kevin Matthew has been nominated for the Pulitzer Prize, you would call me back and say, can you please tell me what is your basis of saying this? Or you just be like, yeah, must be right. Must be right, I do deserve the Pulitzer Prize. There would be some level of, basic fact checking. Or if I tomorrow call you up and say that I have made you a professor at Columbia, you would call up Columbia and say, excuse me, how did you decide to appoint me a professor at Columbia, right? Or you'd pack your bags and you'd land up there, Kevin Matthew.
Ma'am, let us not compare that and this together.
It is about basic checking, Anurag Naidu, isn't it? And that's what it all boils down to. It is not about, and we keep saying it again, about the eligibility of a person or not. I am no judge for it. The point is, neither is Time. So we didn't judge who's the favorite. How did they judge it? what was there?
It is probably their favorites, and I don't agree to it. I don't agree to it. I agree to the refutations that you've come up with today. But having said that, it is time.
Anurag Naidu.
Padmaja, this is PR ki behti ganga mein haath dholo. People, some of their fans are tweeting and they find it, really self-satisfying, and they retweet and they accept a congratulatory message and the story ends there. But the larger problem is, far more people, tend to take it more seriously. And I'm like I said, we'll be very happy if there is any Indian, but we'll be equally sad if there is some kind of a speculation or some kind of a propaganda being peddled, and international media then Googles and finds something about these two gentlemen. I'm saying public domain information, which is, I don't say it is very clean, but it has two views and it is conflicting, and that's when we'll be sending a very wrong message to the international community that, we kind of give in to the propagandas very easily. So we as Indians should not be giving in to any propaganda so easily. We are intellectual people. We call ourselves one of the best brains in India, and I think we also have equal responsibility to set aside and tell the world that we don't buy.
If I could just interrupt you there, sir, let me also get a word in from Mr. Majid Haidari, who's also on the broadcast with us. Mr. Haidari, would you have expected Mr. Zubair as well as Mr. Sinha to have fact-check time? At least in the interest of transparency, we should also mention here that we sent Time also a very detailed questionnaire, a response something that's not been forthcoming as yet, despite more than 20 hours having elapsed since the time we sent that email. But yes, Mr. Haidari.
Well, sir, I'd start saying that गिरते हैं शाह सवार ही मैदान जंग में वो तितली क्या गिरें कि जो घुटनों के बल चले. Instead of appreciating our fellow countrymen, our fellow Indians, our fellow Satyavadis, we are trying to demean them and say that why anyhow somehow their name figured in Time magazine.
We're not saying that at all.
Would you do the same jasusi if it were the names of Shahzad Poonawala and Pragya Singh Thakur?
Of course.
Would you resort to same jasusi? No.
Of course. It's
Because
not jasusi, sir. It's called checking facts.
You are after them. No,
much as I wish that you also win the Nobel Peace Prize, if your name also popped up, leave alone us. We would expect you also to do that basic check.
It had not figured in Swaraj, it had figured in Time magazine, it has a reputation. It's not Swaraj, please. Let's draw some comparison between them.
So you're saying that if it features in a magazine, it doesn't need to be based in fact.
Hook or crook, anyhow, somehow, they manage their name in the Time magazine for whatever reason.
Manage? But you're not supposed to manage. And the Time magazine is not putting its own personal favorite. It is not saying, by the way, Siddharth, just correct me if I'm wrong, does the piece say anywhere, these are Time's
Absolutely
favorites?
Not. They specifically refer to three sources, Padmaja. The Reuters survey, the bookmakers odds, and finally the PRIO shortlist. So they're also basing their so-called findings based on three other sources that they've cited.
Pragya Thakur have never managed their name. They can't make it to that magazine, that elite magazine.
Well, the thing is, neither did these two gentlemen. Okay, so here's the thing. To claim that somebody is a favorite for a third party requires a certain adherence to facts. You can't just sit in my office, I can't just sit in my office and write a piece saying, here are the favorites to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Majid Haidari and Kevin Matthew.
Zubair has not
you will turn around and ask me, excuse me, how did you decide that?
Honestly,
or no?
Padmaja, honestly, I think that points us to a much bigger problem here, which we should be discussing.
Oh, this is the favorite. I have to say that this is the favorite refuge of a scoundrel now. The moment you don't have any answer to give, final word, Mithun Vijay Kumar, people say, oh, this is not the problem. There are bigger problems.
See, it's very unfortunate that the so-called fact checkers did not check the fact when their names were coming out. And they did not even clarify that, okay, I should go. And instead, he was happily retweeting it. Now, that's a very sad condition for someone who claims to be a fact checker. And the Time magazine actually quoted everyone from Norwegian lawmakers to many other sources, and those sources are quoting others. And so I don't know why this whole propaganda came up all of a sudden. So according to me, in my thoughts, I believe that it's a well-coordinated campaign against India, and in all likelihood, people who are speaking against India are getting some kind of a reputation, are being given some sort of an importance, and that's an effort to shame the nation altogether, because there are many people who deserve this award and their names never came up.
Right, Padmaja. In fact, if this is part of a larger design, and we'll be honest enough to say this, Padmaja, that would be completely in the realm of speculation, and we will not put a categorical stamp on it that this is part of a trend, a deliberated, orchestrated campaign.
And we'll just leave it at that. Here are the facts. And again, like we said, only the people who wrote it, who amplified it, and who decided for reasons best known to them, not decide to check it, we expect some sort of explanation. The people do. Thanks very much for joining us, gentlemen. Thanks for watching. More coming up on the other side.